and our last video on data displays is going to be about how to create a box and whisker plot. Now the box and whisker plot is probably the most complicated, but it's also, I think, kind of the most fun. So when we create a box and whisker plot, we are going to focus primarily on 5 important numbers within our data set, okay? We want to focus on the minimum, which is the smallest number, the median, the middle number, the maximum, the largest number, the lower quartile, which is in the middle between the minimum and the median, and the upper quartile, which is in the middle between the median and the maximum. So you want to make sure that you write on the side, maybe in this margin over on the right-hand side, make sure that you write down the meanings of each of those terms. So we're going to start by figuring out the median, the minimum, and the maximum in our list, and then we'll calculate the lower and upper quartiles from there. So first things first, when we have a box and whisker plot that we need to make, or any sort of data set that requires us to find a median, we must put them in order. So let's go ahead and put these in order from least to greatest. Our smallest number is 3. Looking at our list, it looks like our next smallest number is 5. Next is going to be 6. Next will be 7, and there's 2 of those. Then we'll see 8, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4 8s. Make sure we cross off all of those. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 9s. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I have each of my data points listed, and now they are in order from least to greatest. So I can calculate my median by going from the outside inward. Before we do that, though, note that the minimum, the smallest number, is 3, and the maximum is 9. Okay, so we're going to record that in there, minimum and the maximum. Okay, now working our way from the outside in, we'll calculate our median. Be very careful when you do this to make sure that you don't mix up your order. Okay, and we found that our median is 8. Okay. Now notice also that although I've crossed out my other numbers in here, I've also still left myself with the ability to read each number, because I'm going to need to do that when it comes to calculating the lower and upper quartiles. Okay, now when I go to calculate my lower quartile, I'm going to need to make sure that I am careful to exclude this original 8 that we have that's our median, okay, because we've already included that, okay, so we're going to exclude that now when we go to calculate our lower quartile. So our lower quartile is simply the middle number, or the median, between the minimum and the median. So I'm going to start on the outside and work my way in. And now I've got 2 numbers left right here in the middle, which are 6 and 7. Okay, so for our first quartile, I have to find the middle between 6 and 7. What is halfway between 6 and 7? Well, if I add them up, that's 6 plus 7 divided by 2. Then that's going to be 13 divided by 2, which will give me 6.5. So my first quartile is 6.5. And I can do the same thing for my maximum. Remember, I'm going to start from the outside and work my way in. But it's pretty clear here. I've got 2 9s in the middle. Third quartile, okay. The middle number between 9 and 9 is simply going to be 9, okay? And if you don't believe me, add them up and divide by 2. 9 plus 9 is 18, and 18 divided by 2 is 9, okay? So that means that we have what we call a 5-number summary with the following data points, okay? Our minimum was 3. First quartile was 6.5. Our median is 8. Our Q3 is 9, and our maximum is also 9. Now that's going to make our data look a little bit different than a typical box and whisker plot. That's okay. We're going to see what that looks like in just a moment. All right, so when we create a box and whisker plot, typically we're going to start by plotting our minimum and our maximum points. All right, so our minimum, remember, was 3. I'm going to put a nice dot somewhere in the middle above the 3. And I'm going to put a dot above the 9 right up top here. Okay? Now, then I'm going to go ahead and plot my median. Okay, the median number for us was 8. Our first quartile was 6.5. And our third quartile, which happens to be the same as the maximum, is right here. Okay, so what we can do now is take our first and third quartiles and we're going to connect them to create one long box with a line down the middle where our median is. And we're going to draw a line to connect or a whisker to connect our minimum to our first quartile. And if we had a normal box and whisker plot where our Q3 and our maximum were separated, then we would also put a whisker up top as well. But that's not the case here. And what's really interesting about this data that we're looking at here is we can really, really easily tell where our data is really concentrated, okay? When you look at a box and whisker plot like this, notice that what we had done was we took our data and we split it into fourths, okay? We said that we had a median, which effectively cut our data in half, right? So if our median is here, then half of our data is down here, right? That's 50% of our data located right in there. And the other 50% of the students that responded were right in here. Then what we said was, well, half of the lower half, which is 1/4, is right in here. So that's 25% of our data. There's another 25 right in here, another 25 right here, and then 25% of our classmates, or over 25% of them, said that they get 9 hours of sleep at night. So what we understand here is that most of our students in our class actually get a pretty good night's sleep. Most of them get between 8 and 9 hours of sleep, at least 50%, which is about where you want to be considered getting a healthy number of hours of sleep at night. Now our minimum down here, whoever you are, you probably want to be getting some more sleep at night. But what we can see is that there are very few students in our class who are getting less than 8 hours of sleep at night, which is excellent. All right, so now that you have created your first box and whisker plot, I want you to see if you can use the data that you're given on the back side and create a box and whisker plot of your own.